break the taboo. Because there's so much taboo around sexuality. I thought I was a reclaimed woman already, like from the age of 14. I was like, I want to have sex, but I know now that I'm not alone. So I loved also the sentence that you said in the beginning, like, you are not alone. No. Acknowledging for me that sexual trauma had happened, that was when I really started to reclaim my sexuality.
I'm Jo Sarah, and welcome to the Umaversity podcast, empowering you with real talk, real education, and real stories from our experts and our tribe of women who've got your back. Our mission? Educating 1 billion women worldwide on their mental, body, and sexual wellness journey. So join me, learn something new as we build our badass tribe. How did you start doing this work?
It started actually way back as a child already. I was so curious about sexuality. So I learned something about sex in primary school, and I ran to my grandmother where we always had lunch, and I asked her, so when grandfather and you, when he puts his penis inside of you, is this when you have sex? And my grandmother, I mean, I come from a very Catholic also background, very traditional, very old school. And she was like, oh my God, you can't ask these kind of things, which I thought was odd, because why can't you ask such questions? And then during puberty, I was still very curious. And I think I was also one of the first people that had, or one of the first girls that had sex. And so I just had a lot of questions. So I started asking questions to everyone around me. And people started calling me slut and whore for it. It was really unacceptable. And then they started also spreading rumors about me that I had sex with this person and this person, even though, I mean, I had sex like very young, but yeah, I mean, I was also still very innocent, you know? And so that was really hard for me. And then during my 20s, I experimented a lot. I went to a lot of sex parties and I did a lot of different stuff. And that all came from a very natural curiosity. And then at one point I thought, I want to do something else with it and inspire others also to feel free in their sexuality and really to break the taboo. Because there's so much taboo around sexuality still. And I thought, I got to do something with that.
Yeah. Wow, beautiful. Yeah, and how did you then start doing this work, being a body and sexual wellness coach?
So at one point, I went to Berlin and I was invited for Hedone, it's called. And this is a party and a festival where they give the first 3 days, they give all kinds of workshop, either creative or tantric or in relation to sexuality. And I met somebody there who organized like this kind of orgy ritual. And I was so inspired by it. It was like 50 people in a tent. And I was talking to him later. I was like, I was just in Bali. I just came from Bali also. And I met this revolutionary astrologer. And she really told me also to do something with it. And then he said, like, I have the perfect training for you. It's called sexological bodywork. And it also it comes from the United States. And it really started in the 70s when the AIDS epidemic was there. And guys were really afraid to get HIV. And so he created a kind of theory and method around it that you can have an orgasm without ejaculating, because they thought that because of the ejaculation that from the sperm that you will get HIV. So he created a method around it that you don't have to ejaculate. And then it really spread out and expanded into this kind of sex theory and how to have sex and be more conscious. And it also is inspired by the Tao practices. And I thought, like, because I've also been a lot in the LGBTQ communities, and it was a lot of with sex workers and also my work as a dominatrix, I thought that's the perfect place to start. So I did that training and I learned a lot of bodywork techniques, and I started from there.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a cool way to start.
And I mean, I started already when I was moving to Berlin, and like I met so many inspiring people that were doing so many things that were so progressive when it comes to sexuality. And I think I've met those people throughout my life. I always attracted them in some shape or form. I think like we did.
Yeah.
It was
For
meant
sure.
to be. And like I felt like it always has been like a path for me in life. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Every time I hear your story, it's always I hear like new, beautiful added experiences that I
There
think,
are so
wow,
many also.
you have
I can write a
experience.
book.
You should write a book
Yeah,
about
yeah,
your
I've heard that many times.
yeah, because you've
Yeah.
experienced so many things around sexuality. That's also why I think it's beautiful to see how you translated that into helping people to
Yeah.
embrace their sexuality as well. What was one of the most important turning points for you to reclaim your own power in your sexuality?
So this is super interesting because I thought I was a reclaimed woman already, like from the age of 14. I was like, I want to have sex. I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to ask for it. And I was like, like my first real boyfriend that I had sex with, he taught me everything, right? No shame, no gay, like just let's go. So I thought I was very like strong in that sense and very curious. So I really went after the experience that I wanted. But the older that I got, the more I realized that there was something else going on. And then at one point I went to Bali, so I traveled there, and I did a lot of drugs and alcohol in my life. And also when I had those experiences, that was also quite influenced by drugs and alcohol. And at one point I got sober and I realized something else is going on. And from that moment, acknowledging for me that sexual trauma had happened, that was when I really started to reclaim my sexuality. Because even though I've never regretted it, I knew that wasn't an authentic way of reclaiming. That was a traumatized way of reclaiming my power. Because I thought, okay, I've been hurt so deeply. And then your brain, I mean, this is very like deep trauma therapy also. Like your brain kind of, because it hurts so much, that it like creates like a kink, so to speak, in your brain. So then I thought, I'm just going to have a lot of sex because I feel powerful. But then after, to acknowledge the fact that I was hurt and to really start over, that's where I really reclaimed my power. And it's a verb. It's everyday work. It's not going to stop till the day I die. Yeah.
Wow.
Amen to that, bitches.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
And so what was one of the first steps that you took to reclaim that power back?
Finding support. Because I knew that this was so big that I couldn't do it by myself. And that's, I think, throughout my life, that has been because I am a powerful woman. And then sometimes you feel like you need to do everything by yourself. But I think the softness and the real power is in knowing when to let go and to surrender and to find support. So this was for me. Every time I grow a little bit more is because I know how to let go and to surrender into something new.
Wow. So strong.
Wow, I'm like, is this really coming out of me right now?
Yeah.
But it's actually true, yeah.
Yeah, but you're living it. Yeah.
Yeah, really, yes, yeah.
And what kind of support did you look for?
Family, friends, therapy, lots of therapy.
Lots of therapy.
Yeah. And silence also, to really, really sit still. Because also I did twice Vipassana retreat, so that's our 10-day silent retreat where you don't say anything, you cannot even look at somebody else. And that really changed my life because I'm very much also high strong, always going. And to really like calm down and then listen to what is in the belly, the wisdom, the feeling of it. Because feelings, sometimes they don't make sense, but they point you in the right direction, you know?
Your body doesn't lie, yeah?
Exactly.
So for women who feel disconnected to their bodies and uncertain about their boundaries, where do you suggest they start in truly finding out what they need and want and actually start to connect to their bodies?
So I think it's very hard in today's society to not get impacted by all the messages that you get from outside. And I think that we will receive always those messages. And when we get touched by them, to really sit still for a moment and to realize why you are touched by it. So I think, again, it's about allowing yourself to take this serious and to really acknowledge, like, hey, so I am feeling this way, and why am I feeling this way, and is it true? And if I want to change something about it, how can I do that, right? So in the somatic training that I also followed, they explain that first you notice, then you trust, then you acknowledge, and then you communicate, right? So it's really about taking it serious and slowing down. So, okay, you say something to me and I feel like, oof, what is going on? And then I trust, acknowledge, and then I might communicate it to you. Say like, oh yeah, okay, I want something different, or I go and do something to actually make me feel different, find therapy or whatever. But I think it starts really with trusting, acknowledging, and valuing your own emotions and your own triggers, so to speak.
And how do you do this? How do you trust your own? And how do you acknowledge, and what is a simple practice that a woman can do?
So if I slap you right now, you go about life, that's...
I'll keep that anger inside of me.
Yeah. So, sometimes life slaps you in the face. So the first thing that you could do is, wow, this happened.
Like that.
Just sit still and to just really be with it. And it sounds so stupid, but to me, one of the biggest teachings that I've had in my life is to absolutely do nothing. So stupid, but to do nothing.
So not try to fix it right away.
So this is also, I think, that we live in a society where everything needs to be fixed. And when we speak about sexual trauma, for example, we are deeply ingrained by the beliefs about sexuality. We can't fix that in 1 week, 1 year. So I think the greatest way to go is to be compassionate and not to try to solve things in the moment, and to just be with it, because maybe it will come back. And sometimes I actually had a conversation with someone today, and I said, I realized that it's solved by not paying so much attention to it. Because when we are constantly focused on solving something, when we put a magnifying glass on something, it becomes bigger.
Yeah.
So when we just sit with it and we give space to it, and then if we can, again, let it go and surrender to it, instead of fixing it, it needs to be solved, you're actually really holding on to it, because that's attachment.
Wow.
I also, wow, that's really how it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I actually learned this week as well myself, allowing your emotions to be instead of solving them and trying to fix them or trying to get them out of the way. Because your emotions do tell you with that wounding behind it, that inner child that needs some attention, some self-mothering, Yeah, that's really beautiful. So trust, acknowledge. So what are the steps again? Can you say it?
Okay, notice, then trust, acknowledge. That's acknowledge and value, I think, are kind of the same, and then you take action. Yeah.
So it's actually three to four steps before you actually take action, huh?
Yeah, 3 steps before you take action.
Yeah.
So that's also the thing, is that where I believe, because they call it indirect pleasure, and the indirect route is to actually first go to yourself, because it really starts from here. Because if I can't give a proper meaning to what I'm feeling, I'm just gonna need you to feed me on it, right? So I'm not gonna actually consider how I can give meaning to something. I'm just like taking from you. You know what I mean by that?
Are you also talking about sexual pleasure, that you first need to acknowledge what it means to yourself, and then
it's full-on pleasure, on the full spectrum of pleasure.
So it's not only sexual pleasure,
like across the board.
Yeah.
Across the board.
Pleasure in life.
happiness, joy,
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So super beautiful. Is there an important fact or a fact that people often don't talk about sexual trauma or trauma recovery that you think people should really know?
When you just asked me this question, I am noticing what it makes me feel, and it makes me actually sad, because the first thing that comes up to my mind is that it's so extremely lonely, because nobody knows what you've experienced, and often you find out way later, and then you have to explain it to others, and then the immense amount of pain that you feel inside, it's such a it's so painful, and that it can be really, really lonely. I think that's something that is often overlooked, and the absolute complexity of it, because as I said, for me myself, when you experience really child sexual abuse, is the way your brain is trying to cope with it, which creates very difficult way of viewing the world. And then to really turn that back around, and to this popular word, decondition yourself, it's such an immense journey. It's something that I do every day. I have to make decisions for this every day. I cannot just turn the switch off. And that's really, really lonely sometimes, and really difficult also to understand for people who haven't been through that, for example.
And when you feel lonely, what do you do?
So what really helped me is, first of all, I've looked for people that have been through the same as me. Every experience is unique, but I know now that I'm not alone. So I loved also the sentence that you said in the beginning, you are not alone. Yeah. Yes, your experience is unique, but I've seen throughout the years, and I've talked to so many people, and also helped so many people in my practice. So I know that there is a lot of commonalities that people feel, experience, and also the way you act out sexual trauma, and that you really are just not alone in it. And that really, sometimes when I have a difficult time, I either reach out to the people that I know that they really get me, but finding a group of people that really have gone through the kind of the same thing really shifted a lot for me, because now I never really feel alone anymore.
Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah.
I'm really happy. I'm genuinely really happy for you, because I felt how when you were talking about how it feels lonely.
Yeah.
I felt it. Not to feel that every day,
I felt lonely a lot in my life. And then to find people that kind of understand that, because it comes from a place. It's so hard also to let people in, because you always guard it. So you're always on guard. And then to let people in, it's like, whoa, it's so huge. Yeah, it's really amazing if you can get those people around you.
Yeah. So one of the first steps is then finding support, right? For the people that want to embrace their sexuality, to start embracing their sexuality. What's one way to start reconnecting with your body and your sexuality? What is a simple thing that you can do, a first step that you can do?
So what really helped me also is setting boundaries. And for me, that meant absolutely having no sex at all. So I'm still now in the rule of not having sex on the first date, because I was so used to okay, let's jump on it. And then, it always not always, but usually it went not in the way that I wanted it to go. So I really had to put some boundaries, and I mean, I love sex, and it's so difficult for me to not do that. So, and in the beginning, I didn't have sex for penetrative sex then for over a year, and I couldn't also. And now I also consciously, I decide not now with you, or I have to wait, or and it's still to this day also I really have to find my way in that, And again, also then the first step is, how does it make me feel? Again, acknowledge, trust, value, and then, okay, can I communicate to the other person what I need, and maybe go a bit different direction, and so really set boundaries around it.
And is there also, besides not having sex, is there any other any other ways that you've set your boundaries as well?
I think in every aspect of my life. Because I always say that sex is like a window for self-development. So I think that because sex puts everything out on the table, it's like really getting naked, getting raw. And then when I started working on that and really acknowledging all of that, that just shifted everything in my life, when it comes to business, making money, friendships. Yeah, so boundaries across the board again. Yeah, and really standing up for yourself. Like, what do I really, really want? Because that's also, I was in this group where also women were like very, very sexually traumatized. And then this woman, she also wrote a book, and she was in a Blijf van mijn lijf huis. So this is like a group where you can go that is like a safe house for women who have really experienced like
Domestic
abuse
violence.
Also, yeah. And she said to me, so I asked her, I said, what was your biggest lesson in this whole journey? And she said to me, like, when I came there in that house, they asked me, what I want. As a person that has been suffering from sexual trauma, you've been serving the other constantly. So you don't know anymore what you want. So the question of asking yourself, what do I want in this situation? Is really, really every time, like I'm still in therapy, and then my therapist asked me, but where are you in this story? What do you want? And I'm like, yes, I'm talking about the other person constantly, but where am I in this? And yeah, I find that magic. That really is like, what do I want? Yeah.
Take that empowerment back, huh?
Yeah, and I think that's in general, I think as a woman, again, in this society, and I think we are making like great waves and we are really empowered, but still, again, also, we have this sense of servitude, and we often tend to neglect ourselves, and to put ourselves more on the forefront is just super sexy.
Yeah, it's super sexy.
Yeah.
And I have noticed that when I did do that, my partners were like, oh my God, I love this even more. Mm-hmm. So it's actually could also be a turn on for the other person.
Yeah, I think it's also, again, a turn on across the board.
Yeah,
totally. And that's, again, where also that comes in from. Sex is about attraction, about energy, like exchanging things and being with yourself. So I think that's, and you can feel that everywhere. No? So like I said, I was in Italy last week. I feel that sex is everywhere. It's so ingrained in society. Like, it really turned me on to be there. And I love that.
And how did you start becoming more sex positive in a way that served yourself? Because before you something positive, but it was different tool. And now you really want to use sex as something that serves you, right? And that you love to do and doesn't take away from you. How did that shift happen? And how could you change your mindset around it?
So there is a practice called the arm ring, that you know about. And so when we did the massage, and then you have to invite someone to enter you. And I said yes, but I actually didn't want it. And she went so slow that I could feel my no. So I said no at one point. I said, no, I don't want to. And she stopped. And that just shifted everything for me. It was just like, boom, okay. I really have to slow down, really take the time. Then I also, for a while, I didn't even touch myself. And then I started doing it in front of the mirror and recording myself. I've done like so many self-love practices when it also comes to sexuality. I had also, for a while, Satisfier from the O Collective. And so I went into this like experiment with myself. And then like last week, I started dating again. And then I really take like, okay, so what is happening right now to me? So I see it as a practice and as a game where I don't have to have a game maybe sounds a negative way, but I see it as a playful experience, right?
As an adventure.
Totally as an adventure,
Adventure that serves your pleasure, that serves you and nobody else but you, right?
Yeah. And for me, that is really coming from where I come from. It takes a step back and a step forward, and then you have to be able to give yourself the space.
And self-compassion as well.
Totally.
And you spoke about de-armoring. I think a lot of people don't know what de-armoring entails.
Yeah.
Can you explain what Yoni de-armoring is and also why it could be a helpful tool after sexual trauma?
So Yoni de-armoring, for also the people that don't know what is Yoni. Yoni is the vulva, so the genital area of a woman. And de-armoring is, tension can be seen as a way of armor that is built around the body. Yeah? When you do something relaxing, go to the spa, your armor of the week might come off. And then when there is trauma, and that can be already sometimes in small things, when I always explain that, your emotions are like a circle, and then your emotion has to complete the circle. And when it doesn't, it stops somewhere. And if you don't come back to it, or you don't give it space, again, you don't acknowledge, you don't value it, it gets stored in the body. And then your body has a lot of pressure points. I like also with working with acupuncture, there are so many, there are so many points in our body. And then with Yoni, we specifically go trigger points on the genitals. And then it's always so magic what happens, because the body remembers everything. And to me also, while I experienced that, I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, I mean, you did a Yoni de-armoring on me.
Yeah.
For me, it was, I didn't know what to expect, but I trusted you and the way you made me feel safe, first of all, because I think that's so important. And then you went first on the outside of my vulva, and then you took it step by step, and you constantly asked me for permission. And then you went inwards into my vagina, and then you also went like clockwise, right? And I had a moment that you pressed a pressure point, and I started crying. After doing that, instantly knew why it was. And it's been coming back, and actually recently I realized that it didn't come from the situation that I had in mind, but it came from a situation that happened when I was younger. And so really the body stores so much memory that maybe your mind is just erased because you can't handle it, It's been very powerful for me. For women that has experienced sexual trauma, when is the moment that you should try Yoni de-armoring?
I think everyone should try. Because what I also have seen is that even though you haven't had any significant trauma, I've had people on the table, generational trauma, for example. So things that happen to women, like their grandmothers or their mothers, or, there's rarely that I've heard a woman who had all good experiences when it comes to sexuality. Sometimes it happens too fast, or, you were drunk, or there are so many triggers when it comes to sexuality because it is such a vulnerable topic. So I think it can be good for everybody. Yeah.
It makes me so sad to know that every woman has experienced something when it comes to sexuality. And I'm not even talking about all the other genders. I'm just talking about women plus right now, people with vulvas. And the vulva is such a powerful place that can have so much power, but can also have so much sadness held in it, right? And then the armoring is a really beautiful practice.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the vulva, the yoni, it's such a world in itself. I mean, there are so many nerves there also, and there's so much, I mean, you literally create life in that area. I mean, how magical is that? Yeah. So that it has to be treated with love and respect and, with a lot of attention.
Yeah.
It is not for nothing that the root is there. The root chakra is there because, it's rooted in the base of our existence.
I always say that sexuality is the foundation of your house, where you build all the other relationship, your career, your self-worth. It's built on your sexuality because you've come from a sexual organ and you are like a sexual being, I often say this, but I would really love your perspective on it, because I believe why I created Umaversity is that when actually society doesn't acknowledge the effect of sexual trauma on women, how can they ever thrive as much as men do in the workplace? I'm not saying that men don't experience sexual trauma, but I'm just, in general, it's that women go through it more. unfortunately. But when you experience sexual trauma, it seeps into all areas of your life. And what is your take on this?
So I find it interesting when you say it happens more to women, because maybe it is so, but I've also been in groups where, as a woman, I was the minority, and there were a lot of men actually having this experience. But so I think, again, across the board, is not, again, if it's not valued, acknowledged, trusted, that this is an experience, because I think also before it was a lot like shamed, like, oh yeah, you were like a short skirt, so you asked, and I think that that's slowly more and more changing, but we still have a long way to go. And I've been in many debates also where people are like, yeah, if we look at the people who are traumatized, we are actually like not going to the root of the problem, because we have to look at the people who are the abusers, So there are also people who think that, oh yeah, in order to heal as a society, right? Because I think it's a societal problem.
100%.
We also have to target the people that are actually the perpetrators. But how do you target them? Because this is also something, it's like, it's oftentimes you hear also that the person who's abused, they never talk to their abuser. I didn't talk to my abuser. I actually, when I started acknowledging, I had one bad experience afterwards, and I said to the person, like, this was really crossing my boundaries. But I gained so much power already. I mean, I took so much therapy and to be able to do that. So there is so much work there to do in terms of, okay, do we have the power to speak up, but also like teaching men and women that this is not okay, and like teaching people where boundaries are. And it's such a complex topic also. There are so many like nooks and crannies in it, and to solve it as a society, because I mean, I work also for an organization that helps victims with sexual abuse. I mean, I've read reports from 20 years ago, and they exactly, I mean, a little bit different, but they describe the same problems as we are talking about today. So then I always ask the question, like, why things don't change, And I think that it is something in humans where we tend to look up boundaries also of others. And then if we are not speaking up about that, then I think we can never solve it,
Yeah.
It sounds maybe a bit pessimistic, but it's so different. It's really a complex topic. Yeah.
Yeah, it is very complex. That's why I think I find it very important to talk about boundaries and consent also in the workplace, because if you already don't feel safe because you have experienced sexual trauma, and then if at work you don't feel safe, or in life in general, if you never have gotten the tools to set your boundaries and to give consent or to ask for consent, then it's really hard to thrive in your life in all areas.
Yeah, and so this, again, also coming back to the conversation that we had before, is that, so this is, again, where acknowledging how you feel and getting to know yourself in that sense, because the more you acknowledge, value, and notice, the more you get to know yourself, and the quicker you will be able to set a boundary. I had also a few months ago, I'm doing a new project and everything, and they wanted to put new work, and I was really feeling, I took a massage, and I had to do really like some regulating for my nervous system. So, and I told, it's a new project, somebody's also above me, so to speak. And I said to her, I think that we are working on our fundament here. And what I want to do is build a house with you, so to speak. And I am noticing that I am a bit stressed already. So I think that we should focus first on putting the basics, and then we move on building it further. And like, it went accepted across the board. And then a month later, after that, I felt a little bit more space, and I told her, I said, now I'm ready. And then we went fire. And that was really because I noticed and I felt where my body was, and I was really, I'm confident enough now to speak up in that sense. And I saw really thriving in the workspace. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And this is something not only that, like this, hey, let's build a foundation together. Let's
Yeah.
focus on that first. That's not only something you can say in a workplace, but it's also something you can say in your relationship, your friendships, anywhere, and even in your sexual relationships as well.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful way to communicate to people.
Yeah. I mean, and also this week, because I had a date, and then I said, no, like let's take it slow. I don't feel the need to jump in the bed with you, even though I find you super attractive and I would love to have sex with you at one point. But like, let's take some time, you know, there's no rush. And I feel that is also something in our society, like it's so normalized to just jump in bed with people. And, you know, it's so nice to just take your time and to just flirt with life. And I give you
Build
a
that
little,
tension,
and that's so hot. So yeah, that's something that I am also learning a lot more in life and really putting that in practice across the board.
Wow.
Yeah,
I love that for you also.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so we have a community question.
Oh,
let's hear it.
I feel ready to explore my sexuality again, but I'm afraid of triggering old wounds, especially because intimacy has been difficult for me in the past. I want to move forward with curiosity and confidence, but I'm unsure how to balance that with respecting my own boundaries and limits. What advice would you give to someone like me who's ready to reconnect, but wants to do it in a safe, mindful way?
I think first, it's very important, again, to think about what boundary is important for you. Like, okay, I want to go on a date, but I don't want to kiss anyone. So you go on a date, and then, you know, you think, okay, I'm just going to sit there, have a drink, maybe go for a walk in the park. And then maybe even, I think also, if intimacy is difficult, maybe you want to decide, I'm not going to have a glass of wine, for example, because alcohol is also maybe loosening up the boundaries. Or you might feel a little comfortable. You're like, okay, I want to kiss someone. Let's see how it feels, you know? And then go step by step, and you just increase, and also giving yourself the space to make mistakes. And if it's sometimes difficult, you will feel after how you feel. Like, are you happy or are you not? Maybe you are like sad or frustrated that things didn't go your way. And then they are all a sign of that you need to either adjust your boundaries or maybe loosen them up a little bit more, and then really give yourself the time in that and take it step by step by step.
And the grace. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, I think that's a really good tip.
Yeah.
Taking it slow and in your own pace.
Yeah. And sometimes, you know, we also get enthusiastic. I mean, I've done that also so many times that you do something out of enthusiasm and that you later think like, maybe I shouldn't have done that. You know, and that's also, again, where the part of empowerment comes in, because you can be empowered towards yourself. That's the most important. Having an empowerment speech where you be like, hey, you know, I notice that you're feeling this way, but it's also okay because we are all on a journey. So really allowing yourself to make mistakes, because we are all not perfect beings. And especially when it comes to sexuality, it's so vulnerable, and especially when it's difficult.
Yeah.
That it really, but sometimes, and I think that that's one thing that I really want to say and add to this as a final thing, but it also takes a bit of a courage to get out of your comfort zone, but decide where you can be courageous enough that it doesn't trigger you out of, that you can't come back to comfort anymore. Right? We always say, okay, you have this is your comfort, and then you go a little bit out of your comfort zone, and then you should be able to come back in a safe way. So don't push it too much so that you will get lost in translation.
Wow. Super clear and super practical tool. Thank you for that, because that really I think will help a lot of women out there. And I hope it helps you if you're listening, if you're watching. So as a last question, I would like to ask you something that's very important, because, you know, taking it slow and step by step can be very scary. But if you feel the courage, okay, and kudos for you if you're getting
Power
there.
to you.
Exactly. But how do you communicate this? Do you have any tips for that?
That's such a difficult question also. Because when I, for example, didn't have sex for a long period of time and then I had it, I went absolutely, completely wrong. And I've made so many mistakes over the years. And, you know, again, there is no right or wrong way. It's very much about, like, because, again, when you have experienced sexual trauma, you might not want to share it. You might just, like, want to go for it and do it, which is also completely fine. Or you might want to go to a restaurant, have a talk with someone for a few times, and then actually share, like, you know, when you feel the trust and the safety with a person. So it really, really depends on the situation. But what I would recommend is, what I've learned so far, what I do is, because I don't share it anymore on the first date, because I don't know, I'm sure already that I'm not going to have sex on the first date, because I need to feel safe. Like, my safety is my priority, but I might kiss someone. And so I am very much in tune when it goes too far, and then I just stop it.
And what do you say when you stop it?
I said, that's something that I don't want to do.
And
I said, we can do it maybe next time if I'm ready for it. But it's also I'm very, like, blunt in that way. But yeah, you can be very subtle. You can take someone's hand off. You can make a joke about it. Or you can just say, stop, I don't want it. You can say it even before, if that makes you feel safe. Like, hey, lovely to see you, but really, I don't want to do anything intimate today, you know? Something that could be, if that works for you. And, you know, this is a trial and error, because I've also done. I am sexually traumatized, so I cannot do this today.
Yes.
You know, it's a lot, but I needed that in that moment.
Yeah.
I needed to talk about it. I needed to, because I was so not used to putting boundaries that I had to put a lot of boundaries, you know?
Yeah.
So, and now I don't need to talk about it anymore. But I'm still also not, I need a lot more safety, and I can kiss, but still, like, it has to, if someone goes too quick, too fast, like, I log down and I have to say, this is not for me.
What if someone says, why? Why not? Why can't we do this? What are some communication tools that you have? Like, what can you say in that moment?
So there is a very basic tool that I also teach to clients. What you can say is, okay, you state a fact. Like, for example, somebody tried to grab your boob or tried to get in your pants. So you say, like, you were just getting in my pants, and just that made me feel a little bit uncomfortable. Can we do something else?
So you state the fact.
State the fact.
What they did.
Yeah.
Then you say how you felt about it.
Yes.
Or how it makes you feel.
Yeah.
And then you say what you want.
And make a request. I don't think that there is any client of mine that I haven't sent this communication tool, because it's so basic, but it's so often it's overlooked.
Yes.
Because, you know, when we immediately jump to our feelings, it can maybe get a little bit chaotic. And, you know, if I'm like, we are sitting here and this is how it makes me feel, but maybe can we change seats because it makes me feel more comfortable?
Exactly. Because if you only start with your feelings, they're like, well, where is this coming from?
Yeah.
But you actually tell them the action that triggered that
Exactly.
feeling. Yes. And then you also give them something back to respond to, instead of just saying, I feel like this. Yeah, but what can I do, you know?
And I do have to add a little disclaimer to that, because, again, when you come from sexual trauma, you might not have the ability to be as conscious to communicate that way. So again, also giving yourself room to either come back to it at a later point, or, you know, like, I also really had in the beginning, like, very uncomfortable situations, like really had to push somebody away or just like, no. So, but I think the most important part that you do is to stay true to yourself. And not, when you have crossed your own boundaries so many times, it's so important to say no. And I mean, not like hit somebody in the face. I mean, if somebody tries something with you, hit them in the face. Yeah. I wish sometimes I would have hit somebody in the face, because that's also reclaiming your power. You know, I mean, I don't want to
defending yourself.
Because it's defending yourself. You know, I don't condone violence in any type of way, but I do think that, because I also, for example, in therapy, when I have clients, I invite them to say no. And you know what I get? No. And I say, can you give me a little bit of a no? And I let them, like, and everybody has their own volume and in that sense. But I want to experience their authentic no and find their way of expression that really, really works for them in order to set boundaries. And, you know, that's something that I also do with them, to find a way like, okay, how can you be in your own power, but still set boundaries so that they are felt? So that's also where I bring myself, and I'm like, I don't feel it. Yeah, I'm still going to come to you and I'm going to, like, and then they are like...
And it's practicing with you in a safe environment.
And that's what I provide, right? It is safe space. And also sometimes like, like, let's go, you know?
Yeah.
And sometimes that really takes a lot of time. Because, again, also as women, we are not learned how to be fierce in our no.
No, we have a lot of fierceness in us.
Yeah. And I always say that the moment you say yes to somebody else and you say no to yourself, you only get more far away from yourself. So again, as a repetition to what I've said before, however, in that moment, what your capacity is to say no, do it, because it's always going to be a yes to yourself if you say no to somebody else.
Wow. Thank you so much for all of your wisdom today.
My pleasure.
Yeah, I learned a lot, and we here in the studio also learned a lot. And thank you so much.
Yeah.
And as we always end our episodes, I want to end with some affirmations around this topic. So repeat after me. I am worthy of love, pleasure, and connection in every part of my being. I honor my boundaries with self-compassion and confidence. Until next time, Umas. If you enjoyed this video, it would be amazing if you could give it a thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. And if you want to learn even more, join our community. Connect, share, and learn by joining our online and offline events. You can meet other women and ask for burning questions to our experts, and by subscribing to our weekly educational newsletter. The links are all below, so feel welcome to join our Umaversity tribe.